Welcome, everyone, to the Contact Center Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. And today, not only do we have incredibly special guests, but we have a topic that is at the utmost of importance for your organization. It's about turning contact centers into a competitive advantage, not just being perceived as a cost center, something that you look at the bill every single month and you think, yikes. But how does that play into the long-term growth and opportunities for your entire organization? Now, Tracey Virtue, who is the Chief Customer Officer at NeoGov. But that kind of just scratches at the surface of who you are and what you do. I'm going to say just a couple of things here, let you expand on it. Through acquisitions, you have just completed merging together not only the NeoGov contact center, but 3 different contact centers. So 4 coming together as one. You're actually the president of one of those new acquisitions, and you're in charge of all P&L. Expand a little bit on what you're doing there. And then we'll talk specifically about how do we turn those contact centers into a competitive advantage for the organization. But I think it's important for everybody to understand how you are an expert about thinking holistically throughout the organization and how the different departments all function together. I'll let you explain that a little bit more.
Thanks, Steve. I think maybe to help people understand why am I the way I am, let me give you a little bit of background in my early life, because that laid the foundation. My father was a diplomat promoting trade between Canada and other countries. So I'm originally from Canada. And this meant that I moved a lot of different places as a kid. So if you're moving a lot and you want to have friends, you need to know how to adapt to change. I moved down to the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean when I was little. I was the only Canadian little white girl in school. How do I make friends? Totally different cultures from all across the world were there. So you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to connect and understand other people. So as a little kid, I had to learn that so that I could have friends. It turns out that actually laid the foundation for all that I do in my career, because I go out and make friends in other departments. I understand what they do, and then I can connect the dots. So it gives me a good holistic picture of an organization. It's all about making friends and getting stuff done.
It is. One of the things that actually that is a really strong skill set to have is because you have to influence people. You have to influence how they work together, why they should be working together, how they benefit from themselves. And so I know you're not just making friends, but you're a good salesperson too, because you have to be.
Yes, I had that job too. One of the things we were talking about off camera was how many different roles I've played in an organization. Because when I started out in my career, I was going to be a chemist because I wanted to create and innovate things. So the scientific method is very important to me. What's your hypothesis? Let's go and test it. Did it work? Didn't it work? These are how you also adapt to change and come up with innovations. Then I became a programmer. Okay, let's make software work. I mean, technology is a theme for me. How do you make software work? And then how do you have the user experience get better? How does that system work with other systems? And then, how do you sell that stuff? How do you market that? How do you do consulting? How do we do HR? I've done all those things. Then you get into operations. How do you make things more efficient? How does a contact center relate to returns or fraud prevention or marketing or upselling? And all of those pieces of finance, how do we collect on the bills? How do we make sure customers are paying? All of those pieces connect together. And by playing roles in all of those different types of departments, now as the executive, I understand what goes on in each of them, where are the barriers between them, and how to break down those silos. Because if you can get your team all working in harmony, you can scale mountains.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I said is that I wanted to make sure at the beginning we properly introduce you as an expert. And I think you have just done that.
Yes. Sometimes it's an experience of hard knocks, but overall, using your curiosity helps you to discover new things. And then adapting to change helps you figure out how do you use that to make business better, processes better, people better.
Let's get into this. I'm sure everybody's now ready to understand how are we making contact centers specifically and the agents, the operations there into a competitive advantage. But I think you wanted to lay the foundation of just how important the customer experience is. If we're going to talk about a competitive advantage, we want to start with the experience itself. And you have a story that you wanted to take us through.
I do. I'm going to tell you about why your contact center can be a customer advantage, competitive advantage. My husband is an avid cyclist. If he can be outdoors, he's outdoors. But, weather doesn't always let you go outside. So he's got these earbuds. They're Jaybird earbuds, and he listens to music or he's watching a movie or something. This is a guy who'll do 76 miles on a stationary bike. These earbuds need to work. He's listening. Then one of them stops working. I don't want to have just one earbud in. So what am I going to do? So he goes online because everyone will go online first. All right, what do I got to do? I try to reset it this way, reset it. This isn't working. It's still not working. It goes on to forums and he's like, I'm going to have to call. I don't want to have to call the call center, but I don't know what else to do. So he finds a phone number. Yay, they had one. He calls up and he's thinking, the agent was so nice. He's like, how can I help you? What's going on? He's my earbud. One of them isn't working. He's, oh no, I hate that. So you can't just listen. Immediate empathy. So the agent had immediate empathy with him, asked him what he had done so far. And he says, we don't need to go through those steps again. Because what was my husband dreading? This guy's going to make me go through everything I've already done. But no, hey, customer, I hear where you are in your journey of trying to solve the problem. I'm not going to make you repeat that journey. Let's go to that next level. And so they were going back and forth, trying all kinds of different things. The agent had to go and get different tools on his side for resetting. It probably took 15 to 20 minutes before they solved it. So now you're thinking, oh my God, 15, 20 minutes. Where's my speed to resolve? All your metrics are going up the roof. Here's what happened at the end. He hangs up the phone and says to me, Tracey, your contact center needs to be like this. I am never buying another type of headphones. I don't care if they're wrong again. This guy made it right. He made it fixed. I feel great. I'm excited. Everything works. This happened years ago and he still tells the story today. So here is an agent who's on the fly. He's just trying to solve a customer's problem. What does he get? He's got someone who's busy telling everybody about the service and not even caring that the product didn't work the way he wanted it to, because the service was so great. He's going to go back again. So he's got customer for life, referrals, word of mouth, reputation, all of that.
And we talk a lot in business about product differentiation. What you just explained there is equally, if not more important than product. A parity product with a better experience behind it will win every time. So I'm not knocking product differentiation at all, but what a powerful story. I'm sure he's in cycling groups and forums and different things and raves about it. Your net promoter score for Jaybird just goes way up.
Yeah, your customer satisfaction score, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5.
What's interesting is that didn't probably do anything great for your KPI and your average handle time. We just did a podcast a couple of weeks ago about how sometimes the goal is to actually have average handle times, key KPIs, even CSAT go in the wrong direction for the right reasons. Sometimes the harder things AI can't handle. So all of a sudden the meatier subjects flow up and they take longer to resolve, but you want your live agents being able to handle those correctly. At different levels, sometimes you want KPIs going in different directions. We'd always say when we report up to the board and different things, yep, CSAT going up, average handle times, first time response going down, but you can be strategic about it.
Sometimes you need to flip it on its head. We actually want our average handle time to go up. Why do we want it to go up? Because we're solving the customer's problem. We're learning more about our customer. I don't want to digress, but this is where we can get into some of the competitive advantage. They've got a captured audience right there on the phone with them. How much information can you get about your customer? How much can you tell them about your products and your service? Added advantage. Let's think about it.
The devious side of Tracey. It's coming through. I love it. Okay. We mentioned up front that your experience is holistic, but the impact of the contact center is also holistic. Explain how that all works. We lightly got into it in your introduction.
We can think about it this way. When you've got a product or a service, first you have to create it. So there's your product and your engineering. Then you need people to know about it. That's your sales and marketing. Then if, depending on your product, you need someone to deploy it or deliver it, that's your delivery side. And then you need someone to help when things go wrong or people have questions. And then there's the glue that we don't really talk about, the piece that keeps it all together, the finance and the internal operations. So all of these pieces, it's like a car. You've got an engine, you've got transmission, you've got wheels, you've got a body. You're not driving a car without wheels. You can have a great engine. So all of these have to work together for the company to grow, for it to be successful. And they each play a role and they each play into each other because they all have pieces of information about what? The customer journey. The customer journey is the customer experience. If you think about a customer, they first hear about you from marketing. Maybe they engage with your website or they get a call from a salesperson and they do research and they ask other customers and then they look at the price. And then they decide to buy, but now they've got to get it Or if it's software, I'm in the software industry. You have to implement your software. It's not always just a download from the Apple or Android store and it works, but you can have to get it in place, configure it. You're going to have to learn about it. You're going to have to configure it. More complicated it gets when you get into enterprise software, the more there is to learn. All of the customer's journey, look at all the different departments that customer just touched. And then you're thinking about all of that, not just one thing.
Give me maybe a story about contact centers working with marketing, contact centers working with product development. You've been doing this a while. Give us some like realistic examples of how the contact center impacts those other departments and then value can get reciprocated.
I think one of the ones that I like is because at NeoGov, we acquire other companies and we bring them in. So I'm the president of one of the acquisitions. So we bought this company and it's a complicated payroll, HR, time and attendance type system. And it was a standalone system, but we sell multi-tenant software as a service. So we have to now take that product and our engineers have to create it into a multi-tenant software. Not exactly an easy thing to do. What do we do with the customers who are on the old system to get them to come to the new system? Sometimes you need to start out slow. So we didn't take all of the features of the original one. So not all of our customers could just come over. So our contact center is now working with our customers and they have the ear of the product folks say, hey, this is what they're trying to do. This is a use case that you can have to test. Are you building it the right way? This is the problem that they're trying to solve. So they can get, without having to interview customers, because it's hard to get people on the phone and take their time. They can just go and talk to the contact center and say, tell me the story the customer gave you about what they're trying to do with our software. And then what can happen? The contact center could actually test it. Hey, could you go and do what your customer was telling you about and tell me if it worked right for you? And QA can understand more of the scenarios that they have to be able to go through to make sure the software is working as expected. So you wouldn't necessarily think your contact center is going to help with product and engineering, but yes, they can.
So I can only imagine now feedback on expectations set by marketing campaigns or things like that and working with the marketing department. So this then raises the bar for also what we should expect that agents can do, how they should be trained, how they interact, how they report. You're evolving quite a bit, the traditional model of the contact center.
Correct. In my view, it's not a cost center. It's a value center, but you have to set it up the right way. And it doesn't happen immediately. It's an evolution. As companies grow, so can their evolution of how they use a contact center. And I think that as you mature and if you can move fast and fix things, you can really leverage your contact center a lot more than I think most companies do today.
One of the points that you wanted to make on this podcast was why you want to invest in your frontline people. So tell us a little bit about, you explained the why, you might want to explain a little bit more, but how as well you go about investing in the frontline people.
Yeah, think about it this way, right? If you're in a call center, or whether it's email, chat, phone, why are customers calling in? Are they calling to say thanks? They're not calling because they're happy. They're calling because something's not right. It's not working. They can't find information. So the people who are receiving the customer call are getting customers not at their very best. So they need to know, how do I de-escalate a really angry and frustrated customer? How do I turn a negative situation into a positive one? How do I create a positive environment for my customer? Remember the Jaybird thing I was talking about? My husband was so mad. This piece of hardware not working. And I was like, how's your day going? What do you do with the earbud? You, oh my God, I love biking. The people in the call center generally are quite social. So they're going to engage with the customer. They're going to talk to them like real people because they're there to help, right? They want to be of service, customer service. So you're getting a negative customer, but you want to be helpful. So you're going to create that environment. So what are we as an organization doing to make sure that the mental health of our team members who are getting all of this negative flack coming in, don't take that home. Don't own it and wear it and then become depressed and sad and not happy when customers call. Because you want to create that positive customer experience. If you can turn a negative into a positive, you're way more likely to have a customer for life than if you're just grumpy and get them off the phone and I need 2 minutes on my average handle time. You got to get off the phone. So from there, you think about their mental health, but also think about, are they wearing headsets? Are they comfortable headsets? Because they're probably wearing them for 8 hours a day. Do they have glasses like me and headsets push on the arms, and so you actually get a headache? Can you get different ones? Maybe it's more of an earbud type thing. Is it noise canceling? What's happening around them? What environment do you have for them? Do they have multiple monitors so they can have maybe their level 2 research over here and their frequently asked questions here and then their customer information here so that they've got access to everything they need to be of service and help the customer? As an organization, what are we doing for that? Wouldn't it be terrible if you had a mouse that like didn't work and you're trying to go through 3 screens and this mouse doesn't work? Get them some good mice. But think about it. If you say, contact center, you guys are the most important because you're the front line with the customers, but we're not going to invest in getting you good keyboards or good mice. Wait a minute. You just said I was really important, but I don't have the right tools to do my job as efficiently as possible. And that it's like the cap on the toothpaste. When people get divorced because you can't put the cap back on the toothpaste. You tell me I'm important, but you don't give me a good mouse. So am I really important or not? If
Your
you're
actions speak louder than words. You can
Exactly.
say you're important, but if you're not doing the things and following that up with the actions that actually say you are important, that makes a big difference.
And the other thing to think about is career mobility. So you have a lot of folks who come into a company, they come in, the first role is in the contact center. You have a fantastic training ground. This is like AAA baseball for the major leagues. You have folks who are coming in, they're going to learn all about your product because they're going to be supporting it. They're going to learn about your customers because they're going to be interacting with them. They're going to learn about other aspects of the organization because they need information from them, or those other aspects like sales are coming to contact center. Hey, if customer XYZ calls, let me know because I'm trying to sell them this other product that we have. So those folks, if you talk to them about career mobility, we want you to learn these skills so that you could maybe go into sales, or you could go into customer success, which is like the outbound, trying to make sure customers are happy, quarterly business reviews, all that kind of, versus the inbound, how do I react to somebody calling in? But they could also get into product. Maybe they become business analysts. Maybe they can become QA folks. Here you've got a group where if you can help them with their career mobility and they grow, you have engaged employees. They're bringing their A game to work every day. They're bringing their A game to the customer, and you don't have to go and hire more people. They're already there.
I've talked to a lot of chief customer officers, experience officers. Everybody talks about career mobility, but they talk about it as a way to address the agent turnover issue, give them a place to go. No one has talked about it as, guess what? This is the best training ground for employees for a benefit. And again, a part of that competitive advantage you're building as an organization, how the company benefits from it. A
Exactly.
training ground for the best employees that you could have.
It's a competitive advantage because you're not fighting for that same next QA person or that same next product person. You grew them. And if you're investing in your employees, you get loyal employees. You get employees who have different ideas. And I understand there's balance between you want some outside ideas and not just someone who's always been in the same, but you'll have that balance naturally because not everybody in your contact center is going to move to the next role. Maybe they don't have the right education. They didn't go and take a computer science degree, so they're not going to be your next programmer. But you want to then have inclusive ideas. And this is why holistically, I think it's really important to think about the company overall. It would be great if you could have folks from product or sales just come and sit in the contact center and listen to what goes on. Nothing better than a product person having to listen to what it is that customers are calling and how the emotion that comes with it. If you think about the emotion of the person, just yourself, my husband's emotion when he called about the headset, they're upset. If you were that product person who designed that product, you'd be like, oh my gosh, what an impact I'm having on someone. It's personal, it's real. Your customers are people, they're not just numbers.
I'm dying to ask you this question. You talk so eloquently about this, the focus on the agent, the importance of the agent to the long-term competitive advantages in so many different ways. Yet throughout the industry, there are unbelievable agent turnover rates to the point where I think most companies have said that's a necessary evil. We've lived with it so long. It's just one of those things that we have to deal with. So it becomes an acceptable problem. If I were to ask you, literally on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the agent turnover issue, not just to NeoGov, to your perspective to the industry, on the overall impact it has on the growth, the sustainability of companies? One, it doesn't have any impact on the growth and sustainability. Agent turnover, that issue, is vital to supporting the overall growth and sustainability of the company. Where would you put that on that scale of 1 to 10?
Part of it depends on where your organization is and its maturity, right? If you are very beginning, you're a startup, it's probably a 1 because the people who built the product are the ones who are supporting it, or the people who are selling it are the ones because you're small. So everybody's doing everything. So it's not as important because you don't have dedicated specialists. But as you grow, it becomes a little more important. And then if you start to grow rapidly, if you're experiencing hypergrowth, that thing jumps to like an 8. And if you're at the maturity level, it should be a 10. Like if you're mature and you're established, that matters. You know why? Because that's the consistency. Personally, I think it's most important in the scale up side because this is where you can set yourself up for the long-term win. You're scaling quickly, you're in hypergrowth. Set your contact center up to be that competitive advantage because that supports your hypergrowth. You have an immediate ability to pull somebody out of that contact center and put them into another role in the company, and you don't miss a beat. It's the farm team. Continue to bring in new talent and move that new talent to other roles. And if you're in hypergrowth, people already understand your culture, which is paramount for actually being able to move fast and fix things. You've got trust built within the organization. They understand where it's going on. And then you can foster collaborative creativity where it's okay to say, this isn't working. So what could we do differently? Let's look at it from different perspectives. And if they're not the person who has the computer science degree, they are definitely going to be looking at it from a different perspective. Get that perspective. It's going to inform you in a way that you never thought about. And that's where innovation really happens.
And the longer that people are in these roles versus the turnover and what they know to do, what they're trained to do, how they can support. You had mentioned in one of our earlier conversations, you talk now about that rapid growth, that scale up. One of the worst things in a scale up environment is you keep doing things wrong and you don't have those early warning indicators. The faster you can find the problems and fix them, how much of a competitive advantage does that give you as an organization? Tell us a little bit about the agents in as early warning signs, holistically that impact the rest of the organization.
Oh, that's probably one of my favorite values in the contact center is the early warning system because the customers are upset. So they're emailing in, they're calling in, they're chatting, they're telling you why they're wrong. An agent who understands your culture, who has been with your organization for a while, is going to have that spidey sense that goes on. They're like, oh, wait a minute, this is really going to be a big deal. This is going to have a major impact if we don't address it quickly. And so they would then have paths to quickly get to whether it's product or engineering or sales or marketing. We're saying the wrong thing. Our product doesn't do this, but our new brochure says that we do. Quick, fix it. They're the ones who can be that early warning of problems. The product is broken. The marketing is wrong. Our sales pitch is wrong. We're not being responsive enough. Before you have hundreds of customers calling you, they're going to get it when the first 3 or 4 start calling. But you need some longevity and tenure for them to know that's a warning sign, that this is a part of our product that is actually critical and is going to cause other issues. And you have to teach them a little bit as well. Understand what is the customer's journey with our product? Where do we want it to be? What's the ideal? So that when they hear from a customer that they're off that ideal journey, then they can take action on it. But you have to empower them to take action. If they're like, yeah, but I tell everybody and nothing happens, so why should I bother? Those are the environments where you're getting fast agent turnover because they can't help the customer. Nobody's listening to them.
You have a point in that you want to make as well, is that you have to have interaction with agents and not just sporadic. Tell us a little bit about how, like, that's part of your plan. That's part of the strategy. And how do you do this interaction with the agents?
Let's think about it from a product perspective. A lot of times a product team will have a customer advisory board. They go and they select specific customers to give them feedback on changes or give them feedback that they want. We actually have an internal advisory board where it's our customer call center and our customer success and our delivery people who meet with our product folks and say, hey, look, we just implemented our product for 200 customers. Here are the things that aren't working that maybe the 5 to 10 customers you have on your advisory board aren't telling you because they've had the product for a while. Here's what the new customers are doing. So we set up specific, regularly cadenced meetings where the purpose is come and tell the product team what's not working or tell them what's awesome. Customers love this feature. Don't go change it. They love this feature. This is what they're trying to do. So we have this internal back and forth. And then we have a second layer on that where we bring sales and marketing in. So now you've got the product folks, the customer service, the operations folks, and the sales and marketing all together talking about what's going well, what's not going well. And the call center agents have equal footing in explaining what's going on. There's the value. So they're at the table with folks who are generally seen as more senior in the organization.
Gartner came out, I think it was about a year ago, and they said that we need like marketing people, salespeople to be more like chief customer officers. And their whole reason was because these other departments need to have their fingertips on the pulse of what's going on, the feedback from the customer themselves. And I just want to accentuate how important is what you're saying here is they are at the table because they represent the customer and they're at the table at the same level and seat of everyone else. How many organizations do agents are they nowhere near the table, let alone at the table with a voice that is equally as important? I just want to accentuate that because I think that's absolutely phenomenal that you've actually put that into your company culture, how you actually work together and facilitate working together holistically. It's fantastic.
But I think one of the key things that we talk about culture and culture being very important. One of our core values is, well, it used to be maniacally customer focused, but it's passionately customer focused because sometimes people are like, but what does that mean? We're so passionate about our customers. They need to be front and center of the decisions that we're making. How is this going to impact the customer? I don't know. We'll go ask somebody who talks to customers all day long. Oh, they're right over here on this. If you're a remote, just hit them up on a video meeting like we're doing. Ask them how it's going, record some of the calls, listen to the phone calls. I would tell executives, go and get to meet your frontline employees because they'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I know lots of times they get intimidated, but if they've never met you before and you just walk in, hey, I work over in this other department, administration, what's going on here? Or just sit and listen to them. Go have lunch with them. First of all, the fact that you, the executive, are spending your time with them matters. It shows that there's value in that organizing. It doesn't take much to just check in on them. How are you going? What's the most frustrating thing for you? What problems are you having the most trouble solving for our customers? Why is that? What do you think? What would you do differently? Be curious and ask them. They've got so much information and so many other ideas because a lot of times they come in and they have fresh eyes. I like to say, you joined my company, you have fresh glasses. Great. Tell me all the stuff we're doing wrong or that you don't understand why we're doing it because we've been doing it for so long. And so as they get customer input, it's like fresh eyes every day.
If I were to do a keyword analysis on this entire conversation, I'd probably take out frontline or agent. But one of the other words that you've said over and over again is the word culture. If you were to answer for us on this podcast, why are you so focused on culture? Why is it part of that competitive advantage for the organization? Can you paint the picture, tell a story on that for us?
Let's go down this path. If you don't have a good culture and you're the person in charge and you're telling people what to do, a situation happens, you're not there. Can they solve it without you? No, because you're the one that makes all the decisions. But if your culture empowers people to understand what matters, what's my North Star, what's my guiding light for all the decisions I have to make, you've suddenly decentralized a whole lot of decision making. And it's going to be right because it's going to align with your culture. If your culture is passionately customer focused, stronger together, be the change. You take just those three core values as part of your customer focus, your culture. The people who get into situations where you're not there, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to keep those three things in mind. I'm going to make my decision aligned with those. Most of the time, they make the right decision and they do it aligned with what you're doing. So this is why culture matters, because if you've got a toxic culture, remember I was telling you, oh, I want to give ideas, but nobody's listening to me from the contact center. So why should I bother? That's a toxic culture. You've got so much information to give about your customers, about what's happening, about what the problems are, about what the customer's ideas are for making your product even better. But you will need to foster that in a positive environment, a positive culture. Because if you don't have it, people aren't engaged. They're bringing their C and D game to the table, not their A and A plus game. They're not engaged. And Qualtrics put out a study in 2023. I think the number was after one negative customer experience, 53% of customers stop using your product or decrease their spending. One, get a culture where people want to create a great customer experience because you can turn a negative into a positive by solving the problem. If you don't have the right culture where that matters, you're going to have more of those negative customer experiences.
What I'm inferring from this is then that an agent should be empowered to not only feel like my voice matters, but if I want to take more time with that customer, if I don't want to use script 2 and I want to jump over to script 4 or just go off script because I understand what they're saying and what they're thinking, I'm empowered to do that. I have the choice to handle the customer the way that I feel is to create the best customer experience that I can. And I'm not going to be dinged for it because I'm not meeting certain criteria or rules. I'm using this to make sure that I'm doing what's right for the customer.
Yeah. We have this one agent who has a fairly long tenure in the role, so much so that he can put his headset on and walk around the room without even looking at the computer. And he sees the program in his eyes and he's listening to the customer. And he says, "Oh, yes, it's over on," and I'm watching him. It's over on the left-hand side of the screen or right up at top. And they're like, "Oh, yeah." And he was so calm and he's just walking around the office and his Zen-like state. It was so loud you could hear the customer on the outside of the headphones. And they just came down and how angry they were. And they're like, "Oh, Rob, thank you. That was great. And it's over here." By the end of the conversation, they were talking about how great the weather was. The point I'm trying to make here is Rob wasn't looking at a script. He was walking around the office. He was empowered to know to do whatever he could to help this customer solve the problem, get through it with them, make sure that they understood it, have them do it themselves, all in a very calm and positive state that he just followed our core values and didn't need a script.
We have talked about so much here, and I think we could probably do 4, 5, 6 more of these podcasts. But out of everything that we've said, if there was one main takeaway that you wanted people to leave with, that you wanted them to remember from this podcast, what would that be?
Invest in your frontline people. Get to know them. They can be your competitive advantage.
I like that. Most people go on for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes when I ask that question.
If it's simple, you'll do it. If I make it complicated, you won't do it. Go and get to know your frontline employees. Think about them as value added, not cost incurred.
I love it. Words of true wisdom. Tracey, I cannot thank you more for coming on and sharing from all your experiences. And if people had follow-on questions, would it be appropriate that we gave them maybe a link to your profile on LinkedIn? Would that be all right?
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk about how you can do this, things that I've done, how you change culture. Because we acquired companies. And one of the things that I did was how do I help their culture become like our culture? Or how do we evolve our culture based on the great benefits that they bring in? So we can talk about culture. We can talk about contact centers. We can talk about competitive advantage. Yeah. Please share my LinkedIn profile. I'm available for swapping ideas and innovating.
Fantastic. Once again, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on and good luck with the podcast.